Inconsistent mandatory politeness and the failures of the left. Hey, it's Prince of Queens, and when I was a hardcore leftist that never dreamed that I wouldn't side 100% in favor of having Democrats in office, even if I knew tangibly that they weren't perfect, I was obviously very happy when Obama was elected into office. He was a Democrat, he was fairly accepting of homosexuals, and he was a black guy, which seemed like a big deal at the time. Even to me, though I think I never considered myself to be somebody particularly attached to identity politics. I remember thinking to myself soon after Obama was put into office that if our nation wanted to make some sort of true social progress for years to come, the best way to do this would be to extend the olive branch to conservatives and treat them kindly, hoping to be persuasive in regards to convincing people to want to live in a post-bigotry utopian America. But of course, that is not actually what happened. Not only am I no longer convinced that converting Republicans into Democrats is a good idea, because at the moment there seems to be no single party as bigoted, dishonest, corrupt, and vile as the Democrats, but much more so, assuming the Democrats were a good party. If the Democrats had wanted to win, they should have done their best to kindly appeal to the charitable nature of the individuals on the right, hoping to sway blue-collar voters with promises of universal health care and an overall sentiment that the struggles of working-class white people actually did matter to the left. But of course, the exact opposite happened. Now, don't get me wrong. If somebody were a massively gullible member of the social justice true-believing left, they might not have observed the same reality that I am speaking of, because we had people like Francesca Ramsey telling us on MTV's Decoded that being PC is just about treating people with respect. So what's not to like? Being politically correct became a value that people on the left coveted, especially during the second half of Obama's presidency, when if somebody claimed that they were tired of everybody being so PC, leftists would generally say something like, "Oh, so that means you want to tell racist rape jokes, huh, you cis white male?" When really, the guy might have objected to people claiming that white people can't have dreadlocks. Yes, of course, despite the plethora of smug, confident, and seemingly well-meaning leftists who will claim to this day that being PC, or even being a full-blown self-proclaimed social justice warrior, is synonymous with being a courteous and polite citizen, these same people will turn around and feel perfectly justified telling white people how to style their hair. And if a white person feels compelled to have dreadlocks anyway, then get the pitchforks. That person is going to be the subject of a massive amount of race-based abuse and vitriol from these supposedly polite and courteous members of the left. All the while, they'll be denying that racially motivated abuse towards white people might possibly have negative repercussions, because, of course, you can't be racist towards white people, which will amount to these people thereby showing precisely the hypocrisy and double standards which have inspired countless people to stop taking them seriously. This negative action is not actually negative. Wait, you want to know why? Lots to unpack here. Why do you want to know why, you white person? Do you want to do racist things? You see, as my friend Sister Danger commonly points out, if somebody makes it clear to you that their code of ethics revolves around a prescribed set of rules and not a thorough set of logical ideas regarding how individuals should theoretically treat each other, then this individual has basically shown you that they are relatively amoral and not to be trusted. People should do what they do because it's the right thing, not because somebody told them to. And yet, Here we are in the current year, and so many of these people stay firmly committed to not seeing the errors of their ways, and instead they are doubling down and simultaneously calling basically everybody who ever disagrees with them about anything racist, acting like the people disagreeing with them are monsters for committing such heinous microaggressions as supporting non-racist police officers. You can't support good cops. All cops are bastards, you white cis male. All the while, these same people are relentlessly racist towards white people, even after Trump was elected, and the vast majority of his supporters will gladly tell you that the anti-white racism is something they view as a problem. We even have a growing white nationalist movement, but that shouldn't dissuade people to stop with the whitey bashing, because despite the fact that there is already glaringly obvious negative consequences for these negative actions, fuck white people, am I right? I'll leave you with a metaphor that I think illustrates this relentless and downright embarrassing foolishness, which is the idea that a lot of particularly superstitious Christians, even to this day, question whether or not snakes have souls, which we can assume has been a theme throughout history. Let's say that you were a hardcore religious farm owner who believed that snakes have no souls and that they are spies sent by Satan, or whatever the heck these people might believe. Granted, these snakes were mostly harmless if you left them alone, and most of them weren't even poisonous. But no, that wasn't good enough for you. Like the white person with dreadlocks who was minding their own business, you had to go out every day with a shotgun and various traps, and try to kill as many snakes as you possibly could everywhere on your farmland, and even into the hills surrounding your farm. You did this for 8 years, teaching your children how to set up traps themselves, and explaining to the kids that they needn't feel guilty about killing this animal, because it had no soul. Finally, after 8 years or so, an entire year went by where you didn't see a single snake. You had a happy winter, feeling victorious, until, of course, spring came and you were up to your ears in rats and mice all over your house and barn. Gee willikers, where the hell did all these rodents come from? There's vermin everywhere. These are even worse than the snakes. At least the snakes didn't try to constantly come into my home. Even worse, you ended up having a rabbit problem, and they started eating up all of your sprouting crops, and you ended up having the worst year in your farming business history, and ended up having to sell acres of land to some jackass from down the road who set up an outdoor shooting range, so you had to hear gunshots all day. So, imagine that you did all of that, and then at the end, instead of having an epiphany about every animal's life mattering, the circle of life, and ecosystems, instead, your takeaway continued to be, "You can't be racist against snakes! Bash Satan!" Like the inbred hillbilly everybody seems to think that you are. At the end of each of these stories, one nonfiction and one fiction, regardless of how flimsy the ethics of either of these types of people might be without any necessary consequences, which is definitely something to argue by itself, even without the consequences, you were a jackass. And then there were consequences anyway. You can think that white people cannot experience racism all you want, and you can continue to mock all of the billions of people who are more than likely going to disagree with you. But in the rational world, we'd honestly assume that you'd stop being so fucking smug and condescending after you lost an election to your worst nightmare of a candidate. The same way we'd assume the farm owner would stop being so smug about killing all of those snakes when he started to hear rats chewing on the wood of his house while he was trying to sleep at night. That's all I have to say for this video. Please like, subscribe, and maybe donate money to me on PayPal. Thanks, bye.